Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Slark. Slark is a carry hero, and he can be one of the strongest carry heroes in the game if you play him effectively, but he can also seem extremely weak and pretty much have no impact if you don't know how to play him. And that's because of this one ability, Essence Shift. Now what Essence Shift does is with every attack that Slark has on an enemy, he steals their stats and gains 3 agility. And it lasts for a various amount of time. You see the duration as you level it up is 15, 30, 60, and 100 seconds. And so that's pretty much the basis of Slark. And the reason for that is he wants to poke into fights and then retreat. And then come back in and then retreat. And he wants to do that kind of constantly in a long, drawn-out team fight that allows him to build up a ton of stacks. Because if you get 30, 40, 50 stacks of Essence Shift, you'll be gaining that agility, so you'll be extremely tanky, you'll attack really quickly, getting even more stacks, and you'll do a lot of damage. And so that's basically the essence of how Slark carries the game. But because of that, he's very difficult at times. He can be very unique in the way you want to play him, because you want to, like I said, poke in, get some stacks, do some damage, bait out some spells, then get out. And you don't want to blow all of your cooldowns, you don't want to commit too hard and then do almost nothing and then retreat and then you have nothing left. You have nothing left in the tank. You did almost nothing in the team fight. And so there's a very fine line that you need to play with Slark, and that fine line is the difference between being extremely powerful and annoying for the enemy team to deal with and being very weak and the enemy just, kills you very quickly and you have nothing left in the tank, you can't do anything, you do no damage, and you don't carry the game. And so Slark can be very powerful or very weak depending how good you are, but he's a very good hero to learn effective positioning and effective spell casting in team fights and in the game in general, because that is the key to the hero, is knowing when to get in, when to get out, when to press your spells, all of those kinds of things, and also who to go on in a team fight. Because a lot of times with carry heroes, you just, you run in, you just see the first guy, you attack him. Well, you don't necessarily want to do that with Slark, because there are going to be certain heroes on the enemy team, usually, that are more effective when you go on them, that you can kill them quickly, or you want to take them out of the fight, those kinds of things. You want to go to the back lines, all that kind of stuff. And that's key on Slark, where it's also key on other heroes, but even more so with Slark. So that's essentially how you play him, and I'll show you more of that and how that, incorporates his spells and all those kinds of things, and how you actually play him in a game later on. But let's get into the spells now. Now that we understand how Slark works in general and how he will carry the game with Essence Shift, we can take a look at his other abilities. But first, I'm just going to demonstrate Essence Shift here. So we click this lion. Every time he gets an attack, he loses 1 of each stat. We see every time Slark attacks, he gains an Essence Shift stack. And that gives him 3 agility for each stack. And so like we said before, it just gives him more armor. He attacks faster with more agility. He does more damage with more agility. And that's pretty much how he's able to carry the game and become unstoppable once he gets these stacks up. But the other 3 abilities are what allow Slark to be extremely slippery, evasive, hard to kill, and annoying in the game and in team fights. And they pretty much enable Slark to get his right clicks off and to get those Essence Shift stacks up in the team fights because of how elusive he is and how he can kind of get in and get out. So first, we're going to take a look at Dark Pact. Now, I'll just demonstrate this for you. What Dark Pact does is you click it. Now, it has a 1.5 second delay, and then in an AoE, it goes off and does damage and applies a strong Dispel to Slark. So what that means is he preemptively clicks it, and then Lion, let's do this here quick. Lion can try to stun him, and then the Dark Pact goes off and the stun goes away. Now, the stun still does damage, but Slark pretty much will not be stunned while the Dark Pact is going off. The entire duration of that, ending part of the ability there, right here, during that entire duration, he will pretty much shrug off any stun that you apply to him. So the same will go for hexes. He's hexed, and now I'm not. Now, the key to remember with Dark Pact is that there are some abilities that are not dispellable. And so Axe's Call is one of those abilities. So we'll press that, call him, and now we see Slark is still called. He's still taunted, and that's because Axe's Berserker's Call is not dispellable. It says here, cannot be dispelled. So there are a lot of AoE abilities like this in the game. Enigma's Black Hole, for example, or even like Void's Chronosphere, because it's more of just like a time-locking sphere. They cannot be dispelled. Now, there are very few single-target abilities in the game right now that are not dispellable, but there are some. So Legion Commander's Duel, Necrophos's Reaper's Scythe, these kinds of things. It's a lot of times it's ultimates that are not dispellable. Now, these things could change over time, but just know that you will have to learn what is and is not dispellable. Items are the same way. There are items that are dispellable and items that are not dispellable. So you'll just have to learn those over time, because Dark Pact is an ability that is key to allowing Slark to get in, get out, bait out spells, avoid taking a lot of damage, and avoid being locked down and killed. Now, we can pair Dark Pact with his next ability, Pounce, and this one's pretty simple. Slark just jumps forward in whichever direction he is facing when you press Pounce. So we can see I'm aiming towards this lion here. I press Pounce, and now it leashes the lion. So lion cannot run outside of this AoE here when he is leashed by the Pounce. And so Pounce can chase people. So we don't even see the lion, but we know he's there. Actually, it went and hit the axe this time. But now axe is leashed, and you can jump over cliffs or, across cliffs, these kinds of things. And it allows Slark to, go in. We get some essence shift off by clicking this axe here. We press Dark Pact. It does some damage and makes us immune to spells, essentially. And now, okay, they're going to turn on me. I'm going to get out. And that's a key to understanding Pounce. Is that Pounce, yes, it's very good for locking people down so you can keep hitting them. But it's not something you just want to use instantly. And that's something to remember. If you don't remember anything else from this, remember that using Pounce is key. You don't always just want to, press this, jump in, start clicking, and boom. Because now, once you do that, the only thing you have left to get out of trouble is your ult. And what your ult does is, it's called Shadow Dance. When you click it, you pretty much get this dark cloud around you, and now you're not targetable by abilities. So it's kind of a save for you. But the other thing your ult does generally is it gives you passive health generation and movement speed when the enemy doesn't see you. And so technically, when you press your ult, the enemy does not see you. So now you go faster, you run faster, you regen, and it's your get out of jail free card, essentially. You can jump in. It allows you to, finish somebody off really quick and then get out, or it allows you to get out of jail, get out of trouble if the enemy is attacking you. So that's why you want to be very careful about when you use Pounce, because, if you go in, you start clicking, you use Dark Pact, these kinds of things, and you haven't used Pounce yet, well, instead of having to use your ult immediately, you can instead just jump away. And then let's say you get out of vision, and we'll demonstrate that here. Now, I'm extremely fast. I'm regenning up. I'm hiding in the trees or what have you, and the enemy can't see me. And now, once they don't see me, it's pretty much impossible for them to catch me. Now, it does happen occasionally when you have other heroes that can jump and these kinds of things. But that's what makes Slark extremely elusive. So, being careful about when you use Pounce, when you use Dark Pact, and when you use Shadow Dance, that's all key. Those abilities and knowing when to use them is very key, and it's what makes a good Slark player from a bad Slark player, really. And so, like I said, be careful about when you use Pounce, because Shadow Dance is your get out of jail free card. And once you use Shadow Dance, it's going to be on cooldown for, max level. It's 50 seconds, 65, and then 80 at level 1. Once you use that, you want to be extremely careful, because now you're pretty vulnerable. You still have these two abilities, but you don't have your, just press R and run away, get out of jail free card. So that's what being careful with all these spells does. Now, lastly, I'm going to just focus a little bit on Shadow Dance. The other thing that Shadow Dance does, like I said, is it gives you movement speed and regeneration when the enemy does not see you. And so because of this, Slark is actually very good at de-warding, because he can tell when the enemy sees him. So if you're at a cliff warding spot or something and suddenly you start slowing down, this little tooltip here I'll show you, when the enemy sees you, it disappears. So, that tooltip disappears, you no longer have it, you're walking slower, as you can see here. Well, if there's nobody around, there's no creeps or anything, then there's a ward, and so you can de-ward it and be very annoying for the enemy, because, Slark is just running around de-warding every observable ward. They have no vision, and he's also very elusive. So as you see, we go out of vision, and now we're running quicker, and we're regenning up. So I'll just show you the regen real quick as the last thing. So we have Lion here. We'll give him free spells. Give me a few fingers here, and now I have like no HP. Well, I can press this. For the duration, my HP is now regenning a lot. See, it does like, it went up like half, basically. Similarly, if we come here, we just jump away. We're out of range, and now my HP pretty much going back to full. So the key for this hero then is to use this ability in fights, you know, be on the map, regenning quickly. But also the other key thing to realize is that Slark may be weak, he may be strong in a lane, depending on the matchup, obviously. But once Slark hits 6, he's pretty much impossible to kill in lane, unless you bring a lot of heroes or have the right heroes with the right spells, because he can just run up to you in the lane, you know, start hitting you. Let's say you hit him too, you do some spells, you finger him or whatever, and, well, he can just run away then. Now he can just run away from you, hide in the trees, regen back up, and now you're half health, and he's full health when he comes back after, you know, 5 seconds or what have you. So getting to level 6 without dying, without feeding, is extremely important on Slark. It's one of the keys to laning him. And then, briefly, the last thing I'll say in general about his abilities is his Dark Pact is also his farming tool. So, like I said, there's AoE damage, and that's good for when you jump on heroes and you're next to heroes, but it's also his farming tool. So, you know, you approach a wave, you click Dark Pact, you do a good bit of damage in an AoE here. Now, I'm level 30, so I have more Dark Pact damage as a talent, but still, that's pretty much what you want to be using. You kind of want to be spamming Dark Pact, so having a item that gives you mana regen or spamming clarities out to yourself is something that you might want to consider on Slark, because Slark is a hero that will use a lot of mana by using Dark Pact, because that's his way to farm. Now, I usually don't talk about items a lot, but this is one thing I am going to talk about on Slark. Now, I did make an anti-mage guide, I didn't mention this, but there is something called tread switching, where basically you can switch your treads constantly to the 3 different stats: agility, intelligence, and strength. And Slark is a good hero to practice tread switching, because you pretty much want to be on agility 24/7. The only time you don't want to be on agility, really, is when you are clicking Dark Pact. So what you do is you click it twice, press your Dark Pact, and immediately go back to agility. So what you want to do to get used to tread switching is, I have it on mouse, you can have it wherever you want, but just pretty much, okay, I'm going to use Dark Pact, double click, Dark Pact, click again. And eventually, you'll just get that into your head. It'll be second nature, really, and you won't even think about it. You'll be like, okay, I'm going to use Dark Pact, double click that, there you go. And it'll happen pretty much every time, no matter what. Now, sometimes, you know, tread switching, you can switch to strength if you want to be a little tankier, but really, tread switching for mana efficiency is key, and it's something that every player that is a higher level will eventually do, and it can be very effective to make sure that you have mana long term. So that is pretty much how we play Slark and what his abilities do that enable him to carry the game. So now we're going to jump into a replay here of 23 Savage playing Slark. And we're going to see the matchup is Slark versus Bristleback. And you would think that that's a very good matchup for Slark. He starts with the wand here, and that's generally, you know, a really favorable matchup for Slark. But we'll see what happens in the very beginning. He takes a blast from Coddle, a few hits from Bristleback and the Quills, and then we see another blast come out from Coddle here in a second. And within the first minute, he's already down to almost no HP, and he has to use the salve, or at least the Clockwork salve, actually. And so because of the start of the lane, and just the matchup in general of his supports, he knows that this lane is not going to be one where he can get aggressive on the Bristleback, despite the good matchup. So we'll see, as we can fast forward here, just go to 2 times speed, that generally, we'll even go to 4, that he doesn't really click the Bristleback, almost ever. He does not play aggressive. In fact, he does the opposite. He gets back. He knows that the wave is going to be pushed in with the Coddle. Now he comes here and he contests the pull, but he just focuses on the creeps. And that's something I think that carry players need to learn in general, is that you need to focus on last hits first. Being aggressive is great, but you want to get your farm up. Now, he will click the Bristleback here a little bit when he knows the Coddle is not a threat, but pretty much he's only focusing on his farm. and he's not really focusing on the bristleback. He's just kind of ignoring the bristleback. Now, he is posturing aggressively because he knows the coddle isn't here, but anytime the coddle's around, he's just pretty much being passive and just trying to get the last hits. So that's just something to learn for the laning stage, is that get your last hits, even if it's a good matchup. Don't always be too aggressive. Don't be overly aggressive where now you're low HP and you can't get the last hits. Make sure you're getting last hits first, and then look to be aggressive when it's appropriate. So now we jumped ahead a little bit here, and it's kind of after the laning stage. You know, he's level 10. He has his ultimate. He feels pretty safe. He has a ward on the mini-map, obviously, and he sees his team fighting down there, so he knows Bristleback is alone. And so what he does is he just comes in here, after farming the creep camps, to get these creeps, but also to click Bristleback. And we'll see what he does here in a second. And I'll just wait for this. He obviously sees the team fight going on. But he jumps on the Bristleback and just clicks him. Now, he obviously knows, and you should know too, that he's never going to kill this Bristleback with the items he has and the levels. But what he's doing is he's just stealing stats, getting his Essence Shift stacks up to do more damage, to jungle quicker, attack faster, those kinds of things. So that's something you want to keep in mind on Slark, is that you don't always need to look to hit somebody to kill them. In fact, hitting them just to get Essence Shift stacks is something you often want to do. Just hit them and retreat. Now he feels strong because he got Diffusal, and we'll actually see the opposite of what you want to be doing on Slark. So he takes a lot of damage. He realizes, oh shit, you know, I should get out here. He overcommits and he dies. Now, the enemy team did rotate the entire team there to kill him, but that's the fine line you want to play with Slark. You want to be aggressive, you want to try to hit people to get Essence Shift stacks, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to be so aggressive that you put yourself in a bad position so that you die, because dying on Slark is one of those things where you lose a lot of momentum. And obviously, as any carry, you don't want to die, but it loses a lot of momentum on Slark. And as we can see, you know, he thought he was strong, he got his Diffusal, he thought he could go up there and just get some Essence Shift off, but the problem with that play was that before, when he did it and he jumped on Bristleback, he saw the enemy team under this ward and his team was fighting him. When he did that, he did not see them. So you need to be extremely careful about, you know, when you're using your spells, when you're being aggressive, where you are on the map compared to, you know, the enemy and that kind of stuff. This next clip we're going to take a look at is something to demonstrate exactly what I was talking about when we were discussing the use of Pounce in team fights. So we'll see the start of this fight here. Slark goes in, you know, he's full HP, and he says, no, I'm going to click this guy, but oh wait, he has a double damage, they're using all their spells, I'm already half HP from that Coddle Blast, I'm getting out of here. So he pounces away. They know that he's going to try to escape, and he's, you know, down to half HP, so they're chasing him all around, and he uses his Pounce again to get out. Now he realizes, okay, I'm really low health, I'm going to use my ultimate, I'm going to get some clicks in, run away, and now I'm pouncing out again. That's 3 pounces in a row where he just chose to disengage. The team, because of all those pounces, because of the retreating, now the team's fighting under a ward, the enemy is, and they're kind of in a weird position. So now, finally, he goes back into the fight, and now, only now, after like a minute of fighting, did he finally use an aggressive pounce, because he saw that, you know, his team's winning the fight, he's not in danger anymore. He uses a pounce to secure the kill onto the Pango, and he uses a pounce to kind of try to kill and be aggressive on the Weaver, and we'll eventually see that, you know, he doesn't kill the Weaver, but it's very good and effective at the end of the fight to use those pounces. So that's the perfect example of when to use pounces in a team fight, and I think it's a great demonstration of that. Use them safely when you can, and then once you're sure that you're not in danger, that's when you can use them aggressively. So now we're going to jump to another sequence that I think is a perfect sequence to demonstrate not only why Slark is good or how to play Slark well on the map, but I think this applies to a lot of carries. Any carry that has any kind of mobility, AM would be another one like that, any carry that's hard to catch and can split push really well, this is the perfect way to play these carries, and Slark is one of them. So, as we saw, he took the tier 2 tower bottom, his offlane, and now he's threatening high ground. So let me pause it really quick. What he knows is that this Bristleback, we'll see this really quick, has Aegis. So they just took Aegis as they were pushing. Slark and the Chaos Knight were pushing high ground basically here, alone, just them two. And so, like I said before, Slark is very good at getting in and out of fights, at doing things like poking and prodding, but also he wants fights to be split up. He doesn't want to take 5-on-5 engagements. So what he does is him and the Chaos Knight force a few TPs back from the enemy. And then what he does is he immediately TPs to his safe lane where he sees the enemy pushing. Now, the enemy feels really strong because the Bristleback has Aegis. But we see they take the Aegis down because now they're fighting, 3v5, basically a 3v4. And as soon as the Aegis is down, what does he do? He goes straight for target priority onto the support there with the Snapfire. Now, it's basically a 2v3, and Slark can just feast on these juicy stacks on the Bristleback here. And eventually we see, they take both of them down, they take the Aegis down, and now, that Aegis did absolutely nothing. In fact, it hurt the enemy team. It hurt the Dire in some ways. And so now he's still being extremely aggressive onto this Weaver, and the enemy team, they had Aegis, they were pushing, and now they had to defend their base, and they lost Aegis, and they lost their Aegis carrier as well as their support. So that's the perfect example of what you want to do on any kind of split pushing carry. Draw the enemy team to the other side of the map by threatening their high ground or something similar. Usually it's, pushing the opposite side of the map. It's usually pushing your own off lane all the way to the enemy base. Then, once you see for sure, once you know that they TP'd TP'd heroes back to defend, that's when you TP to your side of the map, to your team, to fight. And that's exactly what Slark wants to do, because the more split up the enemy is, the better Slark is. Because the only way to really kill Slark is to burst him when he's locked down, just focus on him as like 5 heroes, and then you can kill him, and once he's out of the fight, obviously, he does no damage, now he can't carry, and that's how you deal with Slark. But if you commit a lot to Slark, or you don't have enough to commit to kill him, he can just, rampage through your entire team and get a lot of stacks off and basically kill everybody. So that's the perfect example of how to play Slark, and also other heroes like AM or any other split push hero. So the last clip we're going to take a look at here is one of these team fights where he uses his abilities again very well. So he has Ags now, and if you didn't know, Ags gives him 2 charges for Pounce. So we see he engages and then disengages immediately. Regens back up, engages again, and now he sees, okay, they're using a lot of spells. They're using Roll, they're using the Coddle, Will-O-Wisp, so I'm going to press my ultimate, I'm half HP, I'm getting out. Now we see that they used a lot of stuff to kill the CK there. So he's kind of waiting in the wings, full health, and he sees, okay, there's a chance to go on the supports, I'm going to use that chance. And as we see, he's just ignoring everyone else. He's just going straight for the Snapfire. And then once he gets the Snapfire, he sees that, okay, the rest of the team is fighting, the Bristleback's pretty low, I'm going to go on the low heroes and clean up this fight. And that's pretty much how you want to play Slark, is you want to be going for the targets that you know are pretty squishy, making sure you have good target prioritization, getting in and out of the fights like I said, and then you can kind of clean up as your team tanks a lot of the spells, and once the enemy team uses a lot of their cooldowns, you can really get in there and do a lot of damage very quickly. So that's generally what I want you to learn how to do on Slark, is how to use your abilities effectively, when to use Pounce, when to use your Dark Pact, when to use your ultimate, how to get in and out, how to split push effectively and be elusive, and those kinds of things. And that's what you're going to learn when you play Slark. And it's also good to have your critical thinking hat on, to really think about what you're doing in the game, but also looking at your replays, judging, what could I have done better here? When should I have pushed these spells? Should I have done something different? That kind of thing. Because that's how you're going to improve on Slark. That's how you're going to get better. Because really, you should not be dying too much on this hero unless you're against a really bad matchup, because he should be extremely slippery. You shouldn't have too many deaths. And so I hope that Slark guide was good for you. I hope it made you understand or helped you understand how to play Slark a little better. And if you have any questions that I didn't answer in this one, anything that you would like to discuss, feel free to leave a comment. As always, be sure to give a thumbs up, to comment in general, and to subscribe as well if you like these guides. I'll be sure to give you more if you want a specific guide for a specific hero. I'm still small enough that you can ask me specifically, and I will make sure to prioritize that hero. So, again, like always, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.